Yay!
Perfectly timed.
We
Well
practiced.
done. We did practice about an hour. What is up, everyone? Welcome to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 258. Very excited about tonight's show because I feel like we've gotten our sleep. We're kind of back to the regular schedule.
Yep.
Last week, we had Tiger Claw, our first ever trail race. And then the week after was a lot of like sleep and figuring things out and like sending stuff back to the store and basically working out all the post-race logistics. But we're back to normal. And we're actually really excited about tonight's show because we get to have old friends back on. People who were on earlier episodes of Ginger Runner Live. They are now returned to the show with a new member to their family.
Mhm.
And that's going to be kind of a lot of what we talk about tonight is what it's like balancing new family with trail running, adventuring, co-race directing or assistant race directing some events down in California. Very excited to have Dom and Katie Grossman and daughter Lindy might make an appearance on the show tonight too. So it's gonna be really, really fun.
I'm very distracted right now.
I know.
There's a lot of baby cuteness going
Lindy
on.
is the cutest baby.
You guys can't see her yet.
You
but-
will. Trust us. So welcome everyone to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 258. The show begins now.
Ginger Runner.
Runner.
Yay! What is up, everyone? Welcome to
That
Ginger.
sounds a little rough. You okay?
I went through puberty.
Okay.
In the first 3 seconds
Cool.
of the show.
Good.
Welcome everyone to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 258. That was Dom Grossman. It was one of our guests tonight. I'm so excited about tonight's episode because we get to share it with old friends from California. Our lives down there, our trail running lives began in California. And these were two of our favorite people that we got to spend time with on the trails and experiencing the mountains of Southern California with them. They've been on the show before. This is the first time in a long time. They have a new member to their family. Dom and Katie Grossman will be joining us on Ginger Runner Live tonight. And daughter Lindy, I believe, will be making an appearance as well. You heard her earlier. She's freaking cute. I can't get over it. But it's not just...
She's making the best face.
She is. Let's see. Can we just... A little sneak peek. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Just a sneak peek. We'll introduce them here in just a second. I'm your host, Ethan. Thank you for joining us, taking a little bit of time out of your busy Mondays to spend some of it with us. I'm also joined by
Kim, what's
Hi.
up, you guys?
What's up?
We are live,
Mhm.
as always.
as always.
I am in the chat room. I'm interacting with you guys, seeing lots of familiar names in there. Lots of great questions already popping up. So just
Good.
a reminder, we are live. If you have questions for Katie and Dom, please pop them into the chat room.
And at the top of every show, we like to thank some individuals. Of course, our Patreon crew, those who support us month after month after month. They are allowing us to do these live shows, our weekly videos, reviews, films. Everything is due in large part to our Patreon crew. So we like to shout them out at the beginning of every show. 3 individuals in particular at that top tier. Chris Lee from Hong Kong. He and his organization Trailblazer over there, they showcase the trails just outside of Hong Kong. He's an amazing human, fantastic trail runner, and we always like to catch up with him. Rick Bjarnason and his team at cheekymonkeymedia.ca. They are a web design company. They redid the gingerrunner.com website. You can go check that out right now. He himself is an ultra runner. He just ran Tiger Claw, which is our trail race that we put on.
Mhm.
He is actually in the teaser trailer that we cut for Tiger Claw as well.
Yes.
You can catch him running that race. He totally kicked its ass. It was pretty awesome to see. And finally, Brian Sands, another longtime supporter of us here and just an amazing contributor, inspiring human who has an incredible journey of weight loss and running his first marathon, 50K, training for his first 50 miler. He traveled out with his wife, Lori, and they volunteered the entire day at Tiger Claw last week. And we just can't say thank you enough to Brian. I mean, this is the caliber of people we're so fortunate to get to meet and have as supporters. So big shout out to those 3 individuals. Now, our guests tonight, as I mentioned, they've been on the show before. It's been a long time since we've had them on. They're coming to us live from Southern California in the mountains, high up high.
High up high.
High up high. And their internet is solid. Ladies and gentlemen, Dom and Katie Grossman with Lindy.
Yay!
Hi.
That's the face that I love. It's so cute.
This is our first time getting to meet Lindy. And this is incredible because we've known you for years now. And how did I was going to ask how did she come about, but then I was like, well, we don't
I
need to
think
get
you
too
know.
specific. I think we
Why
know.
don't they just sit down?
Everyone have a beer or some beverage to take a load off.
Can you explain the details?
Yeah.
So she is a new addition to the family. How old is Lindy, and how long has she been around?
She is almost 10 months now.
Wow.
10 months later this week, actually.
Let's first start by saying congratulations, Happy Mother's Day. We have, of course, mothers that watch this show regularly and are big supporters and stuff. And this is, I think, probably the first time I get to tell you Happy Mother's Day. I know we're a day late. I apologize about that.
As long as you called your own mom yesterday, we're good. Did you?
We got to pause the show for a second. Of course I did. Absolutely. Hi. So a new addition to the family. How has that changed your mountain lives? I think last we spoke, had you on the show, you talked about moving up to Wrightwood and moving outside of the LA bubble and getting to live in the mountains. How has the new addition sort of affected that?
Well, we sleep more tactically, not as luxuriously. Literally, I came home from work and Katie was knocked out, and then I told her that we were gonna be on in 20 minutes, and she started yelling at me. But she was grateful for the sleep. I think that's like just realizing that kids are like they're really cute for a reason. And that reason is at 2 a.m. that you don't like, that you want to get out of bed to take care of them, and you want to. I'm like 5'10", and her crib is maybe 3 feet long. And I have to climb in her crib every night to get her feel safe when she falls asleep. And she is obviously cute enough to warrant that, even when I'm tired, even when I'm sore, even when I'm beat up. And so I think once you get past the sleep part, she's been just like a big, like rose-colored lens on her life. We like going skiing with her. She makes it like just an amazing adventure. Going running with her. We can't go on trails with her, but we'll run on the roads with her, and we hike with her on the trails.
Right.
And just like seeing her excitement and exuberance for nature and for the world, her curiosity. It's she definitely makes you realize that the world is not just a black and white. Okay, I'm in the Sierra now. It's like, no, I'm in the Sierra, and Lindy is going nuts over the leaves, and I like get like, I think we both get a bit more of like just what's the serotonin hit from from seeing the world the way that she sees it, with all this excitement and energy. But that's at least my perspective. I also get to go to work every day, and so I have it a little bit easier than Katie, who is attached to the hip to Lindy, more or less.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I'm actually really curious, Katie, of just because I know having moved to Wrightwood, you were deep in the advertising agency and marketing agencies in Los Angeles. So now you're working contract. And how has that balance worked for you as far as being able to raise your daughter, being there full time for her, but then also being able to work and contract and stuff in the mountains? Have you been able to balance it all? Has it been a struggle?
Yeah, I mean, so it's way different now. Like, before she was born, and even while I was still pregnant, like up until almost my due date, I was still like taking contracts down in the city. I would like on-site contracts, in addition to the off-site work. And so I would go down there and I would stay with friends, or I would drive back to the St. Gabriel's. And there was a couple weeks there I slept in my truck with like 9 months pregnant, and had to come out of my truck to pee in the night like 5 times. It was awful. But that's the biggest thing that's changed now, is that I am getting like remote work. But I can right now, with still breastfeeding her and everything, I kind of can't take the on-site contracts, because I would have to, every couple of days, I would have to drive all the way back up here to drop off milk and everything. And I would never see her. I wouldn't see her in the morning or in the evening.
Yeah.
And so we just looked at all the permutations, and I was like, I'm just not willing to do that. And so until I'm done with the breastfeeding portion of it, I can only take remote work. It's actually been good. I've gotten like a few like just project basis projects, or there's a couple clients I have that I get work. Like it seems like about every couple weeks I have work that it's never like a full day. It's challenging when a lot of it all combines. Those days are a little bit awful on Dom because I'm trying to like use all of her nap time to get all my work done. Plus I still want to try to run or work out, and that usually goes by the wayside. Next thing I know, I'm up working at midnight. And I finally go to sleep, and then she's waking up to want to feed. And so I just, all of a sudden 2 days will go by and I haven't slept. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So it's advertising's always kind of like that, where it's feast or famine. And then that's exacerbated when you're freelance. And then now it's exacerbated times 10 with her involved, but I'm figuring it out.
Do you have like a support system in place, or people that you are able to lean on for guidance and anything like that?
No. That's like
guidance, yes, but childcare is minimal.
Guidance from who? Who's in my situation that's giving me advice? No, I'm not.
Okay, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to mansplain. I'm sorry.
No, and no. Like we definitely. Like she has had a couple of people babysit her up here that she does. Fortunately, she does really well with whoever. She like loves people, and she's really happy. So we don't have to worry about that. But we don't have any family up here. There's no one like to really call last minute. So that has been. While we say all the time, I like can't imagine not raising her up here and having this slower pace of life.
Right.
I think I would be going crazy the way that we used to live. And not living up here, but it's also a challenge because all of our like lifelong friends and all of the friends that I have that are like also going through motherhood right now and in a similar situation are in a completely different situation and not anywhere close to me. So I am kind of a loner of a person in general. I like to spend a lot of time alone, but having her around and not having like my friends and my support network up here has definitely felt lonely at times for sure.
So if you're considering moving to Wrightwood, please. Seems like it's like one round a year that's moving up. So
yes.
I mean, you guys have really put it on the map as far as sort of like a trail running destination. Just seeing the imagery of both. I mean, this winter alone, like seeing all the skiing pictures and what you're able to do on these mountains with skis. And boot packing up and being able to enjoy it throughout the season is testament to the region. And like, I mean, it's just waiting to be explored by trail runners and outdoors enthusiasts to their heart's content. We do, of course, have tons of live questions. Kim has pulled a couple aside already. Let's get to those.
I feel like the whole show is just you making faces at Lindy.
I can't get enough of her. She's so cute. And
I'm sorry.
She's
like this is
we love it.
Adorable. We love it. And I will say, you mentioned just how happy a baby she is, and it's obvious. Like she's obviously just enjoying everything. It's so cute. Live questions.
Yeah, great question from Nathaniel in the chat room for Katie. Nathaniel asked, Katie, you wrote a series of Trail Sisters columns covering running, pregnancy, and motherhood. What about the pregnancy went as expected, and what surprised you?
Pretty much everything surprised me. This is a piece that like I've started like a post-mortem document on this like a million times, and I just kind of can't finish it because it's a pretty emotional topic for me. I thought that I went in to pregnancy and to childbirth and everything with like, I was like, I'm going to be open-minded about the whole experience. I don't know what's going to happen. Every woman's different. I'm not going to have a birth plan. I'm just going to go with it. And still I felt like the whole thing, like of pregnancy and birth and postpartum all kind of went a way that would be, I don't want to say the worst possible outcome because it's not, but it definitely, all of those things went to like an extreme of not going the way that I had hoped. at all. What I mean by that is, definitely during the pregnancy, from the get-go, I definitely was already having a hard time running, like breathing up here and running. Like, that's actually how I knew I was pregnant. I had like a week of runs where I just couldn't breathe. And I remembered somebody saying that was a sign. And there were other little signs too. And we were trying. So I was like, I think I'm pregnant. And sure enough, I went straight in after a run. And that's how I figured it out. So running was a little bit harder. But I was like, okay, no problem. I'm just going to keep doing it. This is not a big deal. And if I have to hike more, I'll hike more. Great. And then in the second trimester, I started to have some abnormal hip separation, and running became very painful. And then it got to the point where I actually couldn't even run at all. Towards the end, I would have days where I could barely walk. It got so bad.
Wow.
So then I was like, okay, no problem. It's going to get better after I get her out. And I went into the birth and was like, the only things I don't want are to be induced. I ended up being forced into an induction. I was really hoping not to have a C-section. And after 36 hours of labor, 3.5 hours of pushing, I ended up in an emergency C-section where I was completely knocked out and put under, which I didn't even know that happened.
Oh, wow.
So I was completely then out of it for the first hour or the first day of my daughter's life. Like I didn't have those bonding moments. Like Dom got to do all of that, which I didn't even know that could happen. So that went differently. And I was like, okay, no problem. Like I'm going to have a little bit longer to recover from the C-section. And I'm going to get back after it. And basically I've been terribly injured ever since. And I'm still having trouble climbing back. So, nothing went as expected. And as much as I thought that I was being patient and rolling with the punches, it still challenged me in ways that I had no idea. Like as open-minded as I thought I was being, it still pushed me to the brink of that.
And I think it was too discovering the stuff that, like when you're looking online trying to figure out how to do something, the topic that you're concerned about is always very deeply hidden, and you really got to dig for it. And I think like realizing one of the things we found out is that she really needed to see a pelvic floor specialist, and there's not many of them. There's very few pelvic floor specialists, and
okay.
I'm gonna try not to mansplain too much, but that they didn't say after she's had some treatments with them that it was just going to be an automatic, persistent growth path. They said, due to the fact you're breastfeeding and you're still relaxing your system, due to the fact that we don't have all the MRIs, we can't get MRIs. American healthcare system.
Yeah, because this is all I self-referred and paid out of pocket because my doctors wouldn't diagnose me. They told me it was normal. So that was cool.
So instead of the pelvic floor specialist, who's the best person to handle this, saying, "Here's your timeline. It's going to work. It's going to work out." They actually said, "No, we don't know when it's going to get better." And that was really hard for I think both of us, because I wanted to be the cheerleader and say, "Oh, we're making progress." 3 months out, we ran 5 miles. 5 months out, we ran 10 miles. 6 months, 7 months, we ran 15, and we're making progress.
But it's not linear. I made progress,
it's
but
Richter scale.
But come crashing down. So.
And so a month ago, she ran with Krista Olson, 15-mile Chantry Loop up and over Mount Wilson with a ton of climbing, and that went well. And then this weekend, she was just trying to do the 25-mile second quarter of the AC course, which isn't a ton of climbing. And her hip just flared up really, really bad. So it's not, there are no guarantees in life. And unfortunately, though there are a lot of people that are inspiring, there's also a lot of other people that reach out and remind her, I had this hip problem for 3 years after I had my baby. And it's kind of like it's really good that she's cute, but it's really like when we talk about Mother's Day and we say, here are some flowers and we really like you and appreciate you. We don't really always understand the sacrifices that moms make just day in, day out. And we celebrate the superhero moms that are winning races and everything. But I think we forget that there's also more humble superheroes that are dealing with injuries and trying to do their best to keep their daughter happy and alive and healthy. And so that's the way I see Katie, is she's a superhero in her sacrifices, because I know that as a runner, I've been injured maybe at the longest point with an IT band injury for a month, and she's been injured more or less for
almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years.
Yeah, because I was injured going into pregnancy,
Right.
and that fixed itself. But then pregnancy turned into one giant injury. So yeah, it's been almost 2 years.
Well, I remember before you got pregnant, and you wrote a lot about the pregnancy and empowered a lot of women and a lot of moms to continue racing or training or believing in themselves and stuff. And it's I think hearing this side of it is more important than anything. Well, I'll never be a mom, I know that, but there's always talk in our household of what if we have kids, or we have viewers often that are going through those same conversations. And Dom, I couldn't agree more. Just like knowing that it's not always I'm pregnant, I have a baby, and now I'm back to training and I'm winning. There's so many other stories there.
Yeah, and I think it's so important to share stories like yours, Katie, because as a runner, you go through the well, if I get pregnant and I have a kid, it's going to be me making all these sacrifices. But you do see these women that seemingly are back at it right away, and they're showing you pictures of their abs that have recuperated somehow, and they're winning races and they're doing these amazing things. But it's there's a whole other side to that.
Yeah, and I think one of the things, and this is why, even though it's an emotional topic for me, why I am committed to eventually writing about it, is that those are the only stories that you tend to see in our sport. And they're great. I found them incredibly inspiring as well. And that's what kind of got me through. When I was injured during the pregnancy, I was like, oh, well, this doesn't mean that I'm not going to have a good comeback, And so I clung to those. But what the biggest feeling that I ended up feeling then, as it persisted, was that guilt that I wasn't doing enough and that I somehow did something wrong, because if I just would have tried harder, or if I would have worked harder, or if those days were during the pregnancy where I was just exhausted and we're I'm not going to do my hike today, I'm going to take a nap instead. I'm well, that was me. I was being lazy. And so I replay every single day thinking that if I did something different, all the information constantly out there, even now that I've been kind of open about what I'm going through, people are oh, well, are you eating an anti-inflammatory diet? And are you doing this? And I can help you with this. And have you tried this? And
a dozen solutions.
Well, yeah. And it's nice. And everybody's coming at it from a helpful way, but it also then makes me feel oh, I did those things wrong. And that's why this has happened to me. And that's been the biggest thing I think that I've had to learn from all of this, and I'm continuing to learn, is to try to be nicer to myself of look, you were super, super fit going into it,
right,
and you tried really hard, and you're trying now. I'm cross training more than I've ever cross trained in my life. I'm not trying, but I'm also trying to be a really good mom too. So that does mean that sometimes a workout might slip if I had planned on it, or it's shorter, and that's not the reason why I'm injured. It's not. But sometimes it feels that way. So
I
anyway.
I feel like this is a really refreshing conversation, something that I really appreciate your honesty, both of you guys, because it's so easy to put those bubbly wrappers on scenarios like this. You easily could have come on the show and just been yeah, things are great, I'm trying to get back to it, and who knows, maybe in a year I'll be able to do this or that. And it's easy to say that and put some polish on it, but for you to actually speak the truth and talk about some of the struggles that are going on right now, I think that's far more important. Yeah, I don't know, I'm just really appreciative of you being so open and honest with that.
And there's a lot of women in the chat room also nodding their heads along and very appreciative of the honesty.
Knowing you guys for so long and knowing how important the outdoors have been to you, it's having talked to you before, I know it's a main reason as to why you moved to the mountains, is because you wanted to be closer to those trails that meant so much to you. You wanted to be closer to the mountains that you summit on a regular basis, where you got married, where you met, all those sorts of things. How important has that been for your raising of Lindy?
Oh, I mean,
For a second, I'm gonna get her a toy.
so the they talk about when you have a kid that you're gonna have these incredible moments, those golden moments that just really like cement like your decision. You're like, they'll describe days where they'll be like 90% of the day was just like a terror. There was a ton of hard stuff, and then 10%, they smiled at you and they flirted with you and they cuddled, and that made the rest of it worth it. And we do have those 90% hard days, but living in the mountains, we also have like 90% awesome days. We'll go on backcountry tours with Lindy, and just like, I think I've probably shared a lot of my social media with her, streaking with joy, downhill skiing. Just for the record, it's really hard to fall on your stomach when you're like, you have skis in front of they go out feet, so to pop out of both of your skis and land on your stomach, very unlikely. But at any rate,
I appreciate the clarification, because I can only imagine the social stuff you've been getting of like, dude, why are you skiing?
Why isn't she in bubble wrap?
You're right.
Yeah. So, but having like those days where like we're just out in the mountains together and we're hiking and we're running and we're skiing together, it feels like just one of like the most satisfying things. And I sometimes, like oftentimes actually, we'll come back from a family outing and I'll say, that was like the best day of my life. I am totally fine with nothing good ever happening for the rest of my life, because that moment was just so purely golden and amazing. And so the converse side of that is when we do go to the city and visit friends, we like our friends in the city. We like that community, but realizing that like, a good day is a little bit more limited in terms of the natural opportunities. I think it just kind of cements for us that we're really happy with our decision. And it was just personal for us. We have friends that could never leave behind the comforts, and we support them 100%, because if you know what you like in life and you know what you love, you should, go after those things. And for us, the sacrifices of, what are our favorite places to eat? Sushi bar, and like bougie coffee shops and stuff, those sacrifices, and some of the community sacrifices, they've been worth it for us. And so, I think Lindy's going to be whatever she wants to be, but I have a hunch right now that she could be a better skier than both of us. She could be a better runner than both of us. And
she's got those lungs, man.
Yeah, and cute. She may be, well, she already is cuter than both of us. She's already done that. She's like, we look at our baby pictures and we're like, yeah, we were okay. We weren't ugly babies, but like we weren't her. I mean, she's just like nuts. Like,
Kim and I do like a regular baby rating. Lindy is right up there as far as cutest.
Not all babies are cute. Like that's, and so this is actually quite funny. So like I told you, I was under anesthesia and stuff.
Right.
I don't handle that well either. And since it was an emergency, that wasn't communicated to them. So I got a heavy dose. I was like, they're like, do you want to hold your baby? I'm like, I can't feel my arms. This is like nuts. The first thing when Dom, like, so since I couldn't use my arms, Dom just like held her to me. They looked at her and like, I feel like she's really cute. She doesn't look like an old maid. She's cute, right? He was like, yeah, she's cute. Not that that's the most important thing in the world. I just wanted to help.
It's a nice perk, though.
I was, even in my haze of the cocktail of the many drugs that I never would have. I was like, oh, man, jackpot.
And as the viewers may have seen tonight, she is a flirt. She makes eye contact with you. And man, watch out! Drop off. Yeah, she has a very casual smile and very casual flirt. But we've been like at parties where like she'll just flirt with other parents and stuff, and it's like one of the hardest things to respond to when they say, "I wish my baby was as cute as your baby." we're just like, I can't say anything to that. Like, a little baby, okay, yeah, Lindy's a little bit cuter, but like, I don't know what to say. The worst, like, most awkward things you can tell us. So please,
You have two friends that have said that, and they're watching this, and they're like, "Wait, do they think our baby is ugly? Like, they're talking about us?"
I know
No,
it's like a
'cause there's-
Seinfeld moment, right? You're like, what
Right.
do I say? Do I
Right.
agree? Do I say, yeah, I wish your baby was as cute, or do I say, no, you know?
No, you do this.
Because
Slowly
I
back up.
think when I Larry David moment, I'm gonna be like, yeah, maybe next time your next baby's cuter. I don't know.
Do, 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 do. She's super cute. And we're not just saying that just to say that to be nice. Let's get to another live question, and then we'll start talking about training in canyons and AC.
Yeah, maybe this will be a good leading question for that. This is a question for Dom. Nathaniel asks, has fatherhood changed your running approach? And if so, how?
Definitely. I think we relatively timed her right in a way that I was coming off of an OTS period, 2014, and I got kind of burnt out in 2015, 2016, and having a renewed approach to running of its it needs to add to my life. It can't define my life. And I need to be smart and strategic with my workouts. I can't just put in a bunch of junk mileage and, let that be like the way that I'm happy in life and the way that I function. I think to a degree we were both really hyper addicted to running, and the fact that if we weren't running, we were really crabby. If we weren't running, we felt depressed. We felt like we weren't, real people. And so, like, making that transition after having an overtraining bout and realizing that running is an aspect of my life and it's not the sole aspect of my life is what made me, I think, a better runner as a father, because I don't look at a race and say, oh, I've only been running 50 miles a week, I can't do the race. I look at the race and say, well, what opportunities have I taken along the way to strengthen myself, whether it's cross training, uphill skiing, biking, hiking with Lindy. She's, Ian Sharman does a great job every year with his weight vest for his uphill hiking and getting ready for Western States. And I got to tell him all he needs is one of these.
Yeah.
And what's it called? The baby.
The ergo carrier.
Ergo baby. And what's great about this particular model of baby as well is when you put her on the front, she's right here. Her butt is right in your diaphragm. And so you also get a VO2 max workout just trying to hike with her, because you can't take a deep breath with her.
Yeah, I will say, even though I'm not running as much, my calves are like shredded right now hiking with her, and I'm like, all right, baby.
Found it out. Nice.
You want that?
And so I think, like, going into the Canyons 100K, for example, I really struggled to make time between missing sleep and everything else that was going on in life, my job and Lindy and Katie's being a good dad and good husband. And when I wanted to, oh, that's what you think of that? It's like, whatever, stop hamming it up. But going into those into the event and realizing, like, I've done everything else that I can well, and trying to be a good dad, trying to be a good husband, skiing, running. The grand total of that hopefully is enough that I have prepared myself enough for the race. And so I went in with low expectations. I developed a new approach, and this is weird for me to even talk about, because I'm a very goal-oriented A-type. I think I can do anything if I put my mind to it type of person. But after I DNF'd last year at AC, when she was 4 weeks old, I realized I needed to approach running with a little bit more humility. And
She was 2 weeks old. Honey.
I'm sorry, 2 weeks old. Let me tell you, 2-week-old babies, they produce all these pheromones and stuff that, like, just make you cry when you hold them. It's awful. So I spent a lot of time at AC just crying, being distracted, trying to, like, win the race, but also being really humbled by how much I loved her and how much emotion I felt for her. And so I went to Pine to Palm and I was terrified if I was going to be able to do it because I was, still like a weepy ultra boy, and you can't be a weepy ultra boy. You can only be, for the whole race. You can be it at the end, but you can't be it like every mile of the race, which I was at AC. And so I said, I'm just going to, aim to make my flight. And if I can run 30 hours, that's great. And I ended up in third at Pine Palm and just broke 20 hours. So it was successful, but just letting myself say, I'm not, I don't have to win this for my daughter. I don't have to like be the perfect runner. I just need to, catch my flight. So at Canyons 100K, I started the same thought of, we were staying with some friends in Auburn. The Curleys, if you know Tyler and Connor Curley, their parents are amazing ultra boosters. The whole entire community of Auburn is an amazing ultra boosting community. And all I wanted that day was to be back in time to have dinner with them. They weren't already asleep in bed. And so I did that and ran a little bit over 11 hours. And
you had a good burger from Papa Curly.
Yeah. And so like having those goals lets you enjoy, I think, more miles in the race. And I spent like probably what I could have gone in with dread of thinking I was undertrained and dread of thinking that I didn't have all the abilities in the world to live up to my expectations. I had a lot more fun just talking with runners and being like in the moment and engaged and enjoying the race.
I probably had more of that dread going into it that you were going to be, well, no, just that you were going to be disappointed in what was going to happen, because I knew you spent most of the winter skiing and I knew you could get through it, but I just thought you were going to be upset. And instead you were so happy and calm and control the whole race. Like I was really impressed with how you handled it.
And that's like, I don't know, it's a weird thing when you settle down, right, with a kid and a wife and a mortgage and a Volvo. It's like, okay, I'm normal, and I have a lot of really good things going in my life, and
we do it because it's fun. Like
we do it because it's fun.
That's what like the biggest part is it's like, oh yeah, it's not just like competition all the time. Like running is fun. Like even the glimpses I've gotten of the days that I felt good, I'm like, this is what I missed. I didn't miss having to do a race. I just wanted to have a run where I was happy the whole time instead of in pain or worried about like not being where I wanted to be. I just wanted it to be a nice day. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna get up with her for a second.
So yeah, that's been, I think, my renewed approach to running. Is just like counting my blessings and knowing that there's a new generation of really talented runners that are doing incredible things, and trying to be supportive of that. Will I still win races? I mean, hopefully. But if I don't win a race again ever in my life, am I going to be disappointed? No. If I do, great. But that winning that race won't be the only thing that gets me up in the morning. There's like so many other, great things to do in the world besides just be an ultra runner. And I think that's where, just for me, I see ultra running as a family sport, because even if you don't have kids, but you run with other people that are a little bit older than you, a little bit younger, you kind of like treat them like, oh yeah, that's Uncle Hal, that's Uncle whoever.
Got a lot of uncles there, buddy.
Oh yeah. But yeah, like you kind of like have that mentorship and that community, and I think appreciating that aspect of the sport is just like a huge benefit that sometimes we forget about. So
it's been, I mean, we've kind of gone through our shift over the last couple of years. We're still kind of going through it with our relationship with running and how we can't let it be everything. Like when we have a brand like Ginger Runner and all that stuff just around running, it's really easy to fall into the trap of, running is
everything.
It is everything.
Yeah.
It has to be my everyday. It has to, I have to do my training and I have to run an ultra every month and I have to do this to keep up with everybody and everything. And it's the last 2 years for us has been realizing that isn't it. Like the answer isn't to dig deeper into it. It's to find your level of happiness within it. And it's awesome to actually talk to you guys about this now and just see where you're at in your headspace with the family member, the new addition, the racing, and it's super refreshing.
That elicited one more point that I just realized is when we had Lindy, we realized, looking at her and thinking about her as her lifespan, right, of all that she'll do and become and whatever. Every human being started as a baby, and every human being, matured and had an environment that was either positive or challenging or whatever. And then every human then has their apex of their peak performance and their peak abilities, and realizing that we're not here just to be at our peak for as long as we can. We're here for the entire journey. And so I think it's a little bit of humility of that. There are people that maybe I'm competitive with, and they're eventually going to slow down, and I'm eventually going to slow down, and whatever, if I run a course record somewhere, someone's eventually going to break it, and realizing that we're part of a wagon train of humanity, and that we're not the greatest of all time, because there's always a new person coming on the scene, and letting go of that ego, I think is a lesson that Lindy has really taught us, is that she's probably going to be the greatest of her generation for cuteness, or her generation, whatever she goes into. But then,
until she gets destroyed by the Jordan Forsberg baby.
Well, sure. Yeah, that baby's going to be pretty high caliber VO2 max.
Frazzleton baby as well.
Yeah, that baby's pretty talented.
The Jornet Forsberg baby already has a hydration vest with the baby bottle. Like, we got to see what New Balance comes up for Lindy.
Yeah, well, she's already got some New Balance stuff, but yeah, but having that humility that you're not your ego. You can let go of your ego because it's part of the natural cycle, right? You're going to be special. You're going to be a veteran. You're going to be salt and pepper. You're going to go through it all. So don't fight it so hard.
People in the chat room, as well as myself, I'm like really finding this refreshing, because I feel like it's the realest conversation we've had on the show in a long time. It's so easy to just kind of talk in hyperbole and stuff like that. But the reality is, you guys are living life truly and honestly now. And I love it. I don't know. I think this is super refreshing. And I like talking about things realistically here.
Yes.
And it's so easy to go, running is going to be everything. We're going to win races forever. I'm going to have a world record to some degree. Like, look at me. I'm totally going to break some crazy world record. But the reality is everything. Thank you for the support.
I like that. I was just like,
Kim didn't
Dom
have
was
faith.
the supportive
Dom
one.
has the faith. But things evolve, things change, and that's okay. Like, that's part of it. That's part of the natural evolution of everything. We needed to talk about it on the show. We needed to hear it. I love it. I love it. We do have live questions. I think this is a perfect time to get to some of those, and then we'll start talking about AC before we wrap. Go ahead, babe.
Yeah, there's another question for Katie from Nathaniel. They asked, do distractions associated with a young child make finding time to write more challenging?
We don't have any guests currently. Oh, we got
no,
Katie.
no.
I think Katie heard me.
Yeah, did you hear that?
Leftover ramen packets from the camp, and she's going to challenge, so whatever it takes. Sorry, the distractions, what?
Exactly. Do distractions associated with a young child make finding time to write more challenging?
Definitely. And I would say that's part of the reason too why I haven't written anything like either journalistically or for like a running site or anything for quite a while, is because most of that time has to go towards my profession or the things that I volunteer my time for, which is like AC100 and also another running camp that we help out with. It feels like all of that is kind of, and those are my commitments that I've already committed to. So finding the time to do the pieces that maybe where my passion lies a little bit more, what I would like to do. I don't have the time for that now, but I think as she gets older and a little bit more predictable, and also like even now she plays by herself sometimes. She's just very interested in this whole situation. Usually during the day, like I'm even finding that sometimes I can get work done and let her play if she has enough toys and stuff. She's mobile now, so she doesn't get frustrated, and it's getting better and better. So I'm hopeful that within the next 3-4 months I'll maybe get to find that, because I mean I didn't really think about it until you asked, but I'm like, yeah, I kind of do miss just being able to like sit down and write about what I want to write about. So
My sister has 2 babies now. They're growing up in age, but she is also a writer, and it was really interesting to see the same sort of like process of she had the anticipation of like, I'm going to have a baby, I'm going to be able to write all about it like right away and in real time as things are evolving in raising her over the first year and everything. And like that just went out the window. Like I think it took her 2 years, and then she started writing again, and
But it would be like she
so
would pretty
good.
much need to like get out of the house. And step away from the whole situation and try and like block time to write.
Yeah.
But that wasn't necessarily her most creative time.
No,
right?
but I mean, still her writing was so good, and like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm watching this. I'm like, oh my God, Katie's going to have so much good material. Like whenever it starts happening again, it's going to be sick.
I have a folder. I just never really like finish it or sit down, because like yeah, I don't ever have a couple solid hours to just like sit down and let it go. Like there's always something else going on, and even if I'm here and I try to like shut myself in the bedroom, I can hear her out here playing, and I hear her like the minute she starts to whine or cry, I'm like, oh, what can I do? Like it's biologically inside of me, like I can't. And that is a piece of advice I had gotten from a friend who's also a writer. She was like, yeah, to get work done, I have to physically leave the house. I have to remove myself from the situation, because yeah, you can't turn it off. So I think it will become a priority to do that like in the future. But right now, like, I don't know. My priority sometimes when I have an extra 10 minutes is literally to lay down in the silence and stare at the ceiling, because I need to just, or go just stand outside and stare at the trees. Sometimes that's my favorite thing to do. And Dom will come home, and if she happens to be napping or something, it's like, you're just sitting in silence. I'm like, yes, I am.
I'll get text from my sister. I'm reusing my sister as reference because she has the youngest baby in our family at this point, and just those texts that she would send me of like, I have 10 minutes. I'm doing nothing. It is
I got to go to the bathroom.
To go to the bathroom alone, like those sorts of things. And it's like, oh my God, having a kid is everything.
If I shut the door on her when I go to the bathroom, like her hand immediately goes in. Oh my
God. Yeah, you got some questions? Go for it.
Yeah, another question for Katie while we have Katie here. The question is, Katie, it looks like you're all set to toe the line at Angeles Crest 100 in August. With the running challenges you face, do you still plan to start the race?
No. I haven't officially withdrawn, because every time I say that I'm going to, I give myself a couple days to cool out. Yesterday, I said I definitely was not doing it. I'm still going to give myself a couple days, but it's definitely becoming a little bit more concrete that even if the running does start to progress, at this point, we're at mid-May, and as anybody that's run 100 miles knows, like it's very taxing on the body, and I don't want to toe the line to I don't want to end up injured again. Like if I'm finally progressing, if I think that there's a chance that I could end up injured at all, like I don't want to push my body like that. And I also, my relationship with AC is so complicated that if I've already finished it enough times that I feel like if I can't toe the line and like give it an honest effort to go towards my goals, that it won't be a positive experience for me, because the whole time I will just be comparing to where I used to be. Like, I think if it were a different course that I didn't have expectations on, I think it would be a little bit easier. But Yeah, so I don't know. I haven't officially withdrawn, but I definitely will in time to give my spot to someone on the wait list. If thank goodness there's a wait list now, so I can do that. That makes me happy. So I'm going to give myself a little bit more time, but I would say that most likely I will not run 100 miles this year. I don't think that it's a responsible choice for where my body is right now.
You just talked about the wait list, and I've known about this race for years and paced and crewed there many, many times and seen it sort of evolve very, very slowly. And to hear that there's a wait list is such a huge evolution in this race, kind of modernizing. I'm really curious what your and Dom's role is now with the race, because I know that there's been a lot of improvements to how it's you sign up for it differently and wait lists and stuff like that. So what is your role with the race, and what is some of the news that it's been making the rounds?
Oh.
What are some of the issues that you're facing currently?
We are assistant race directors now. Specifically, we do a lot of the coordination around Wrightwood, and we do all of the training runs. Like, we coordinate that in the training camp that we just had. We do all of that, and then we do the race book. It's just kind of morphed into doing a lot of the pieces with the race. Hold on, I know you're trying to jump over me, but now I lost my train of thought. Go.
This might be part of your train of thought. When you write a race book, you write rules, you write procedures, you write policies, you answer questions that have not been answered or not been thought of before. And so I would describe it in like a very administrative way that we're rewriting a lot of the race and trying to institute, suggestions and changes.
And it's to be clear too, it's suggestions that people that have come and gone with the race or been involved with the race or loved the race. A lot of this stuff are things that people have been saying for a long time, and it's just like sometimes it takes a while to
it takes the right situation
and the right timing and the right, I don't know. It
takes finesse.
Yeah.
And I think, like one good thing that I at least have going for me is that in my work, I'm the go-between between the engineers and the senior leadership. And so being that solid middle manager, I understand this is how we speak for the people that really need to be spoken for and really need to be advocated for. And then this is how we handle the bad news from the senior leadership that says, sorry, the budget's not there, or sorry, we don't believe in that. That's the way to go. And so we don't let go of things forever. We may say, okay, this year we can't make the change to one part of the race that we want to make, and we'll try again next year. And so I think that would be our only claim to fame, is that we have endurance with process, the ultra process, and the ultra the growth of the race. So it's not easy. It's not glamorous work. We don't get our way a lot.
Yeah. But I think that's a big part of it too, is understanding that at the end of the day, it's not a race, and it was going on for
32 years
before you were born. But I was a very small child. And so we understand that it's like we don't know everything, and so it's not our final decision, and we respect that. So
yeah, it's interesting because it is one of the older hundreds. It's been around for decades, and it's been in a position with a lot of the same leadership for such a long time that it has that old school vibe, and it doesn't really want to change from that. Rightfully so, because it is one of those historic races. And I can imagine something like Western states, if they want to implement a change, there are so many levels to go through to implement that change. And I can only imagine how many years it could take. Like if they want to bypass a bridge or something, there's things in place and orders that you have to go through, and all sorts of that, those sorts of hierarchies. So I can only imagine with AC, it's very similar. Now, I know that you guys are also doing a lot of legwork. A lot of people associated with the race are in regards to Baden-Powell and a lot of the PCT and stuff like that. What's the issue that's been going on, and how can viewers or how can we help?
Right. So right now on the AC100, AC100.com page, there is a Save the Race button in red on the left side. What's happening is you can read up more on it there, but every year the San Gabriels are more or less the target for wilderness expansion and new wildernesses. And the reason why that is because there's a lot of economic activity around LA. There's a lot of people that are very into hiking and supporting conservation, and the race is actually no different. We support conservation as well. It's just that the particular lobby that is enacting the conservation is more of a backpacker, hiker lobby.
Right.
And when they say something is wilderness, they say it's no problem because last year there were 7,000 PCT through hike permits that were given, and that did not affect them. They could send 50 hikers a day through, no problem. But now when the race asks for a permit to go through wilderness, the Forest Service bylaws say no competitive events, no groups larger than 12. And so it feels like a little bit of, I'm sure this may be controversial, but a little bit of pedestrian discrimination, because runners and hikers are essentially pedestrians. But just because runners are running and they don't have a backpack on and hikers are hiking slowly, it doesn't really change the effect of, as far as we're concerned, on the landscape. We come into groups of hikers that are over 12 hiking the PCT.
Furthermore, they're camping on the land.
They're
camping
cooking.
On the land. They're digging holes and going to the bathroom because they're not getting to the spots to go to the bathroom. Like, right. This is not to knock the hikers at all.
Not at all. And the reason why they have a place and they have a lobby is that they do a lot of trail work as well. And so basically there is legislation for the San Gabriel Mountains, Rivers and Canyons Foothills Act, and it's an increased wilderness areas, and then also to add as well, you might want to stop her.
Yeah, she's gonna knock.
So it's to increase wilderness areas, and then also recreational activities for the foothills of the San Gabriel Mountains. And it's a really great bill. The only problem is that the runners were not a part of the writing of the bill. The mountain bikers were, and there's a section off of Condor Peak called Trail Canyon, and they have actually done what they call a cherry stem. So imagine if you're drawing a big wilderness bubble, and then you cut out the trail and say, as long as you're on the trail, you're not in the wilderness. If you step off the trail, you're in the wilderness. So they've enacted a cherry stem for Trail Canyon. But they have a proposal for between Baden-Powell and Mount Hawkins that they will make the PCT itself wilderness, and so we will not be able to run over Baden-Powell, and then we'll effectively have over 20 miles of road running on a 55-mile-per-hour zone road.
We've already been kicked out of other areas because we didn't get out ahead of it, and I think that was one of the major things too when.
And Hal Winton did try.
That's what I was going to say, is that unfortunately a couple of years ago we lost Hal Winton, who was the co-race director and was in charge of all of the trail work, and a long time, over 30 years of volunteering with the Forest Service. And so he had all of his contacts and everything within the Forest Service and was always working and trying. And unfortunately, once he passed away, while now Gary Hilliard has now stepped up and is like doing a great job, just some of those contacts aren't the same. And so it wasn't the same like feed of information coming to us to enable us to get out ahead of the things that maybe Hal was privy to that we don't know, because we didn't know all the same people that Hal knew.
Yeah, but the good news is that as roles open up in the race organization with turnover, we have two wonderful lawyer runners that are volunteering their time, and also a land use expert. And we're getting the word out for more help from professionals to advocate for our cause, because
it's not just AC. This is like a bigger problem that's affecting.
So and just to hopefully get the big picture for runners as a whole, right? Hard Rock, one of the most amazing, greatest races ever, staple in the San Juan Mountains, is actually a threat of losing the access to handies,
which is the 114er.
14er on the course. And though, many runners have told us over the years, that'd be great if it was a wilderness, because maybe there would be less dirt bikes and ATVs in that area. And that's great. But you don't have to lose access to something and to protect it from, to conserve it. You can do a cherry stem through, but you have to be willing to speak up and you have to take action. If you keep on saying, I'm willing to lose every trail race in the world because I think wilderness is more important, well, you're going to lose recreation. And when you lose recreation, you lose the community that's invested in protecting that land and doing the trail work and trying to,
she's fine.
And doing what it takes to make the world a more green place and a more vibrant place. Because if you shut off trails and say only small groups of people can access the trails, you risk losing the collective public will to affect change. And I think Patagonia as a company is a great example of that. They have evangelized many outdoor enthusiasts into becoming conservationists because they bring issues to light. And that's, I think, something that's similar that we're trying to do here, because Tiger Claw, Western States, Hard Rock, any trail race out there that is at risk of having a wilderness expansion, you should be researching your area, looking, all I did for AC was I Googled San Gabriel wilderness expansion, and Google, I eventually dug deep enough to figure out what was going on, but Google gave me all the information, and we started a cause where we have a form letter where runners can fill it out and then add their personal thoughts on the issue and what running means to them, what trail races mean to them, and they can send it to their congressman. And there are, believe it or not, in this day and age, congressmen or congressional representatives, senators, they respond to
people are already
constituents.
getting responses.
Because if you are a representative that does not respond, you get voted out. It's a very real threat. And so having a collective voice, whether you live in Florida and you're concerned about AC100 or wherever, that changes the potential of that bill passing and being modified. And so that's something that we have to do as runners. If you think that's never going to affect you and that you think that your course, your favorite race course is safe, we were just as naive. And the truth is it's not. Nothing's really guaranteed. So
it's something that it obviously affects AC100, the Baden-Powell Trail. It's 20 miles of the AC course, but it's the PCT, and it goes over the highest point, on the AC course, and it's obviously vital to that race. But as Ingen points out, and other people point out in the chat room here, that it is something that affects a lot of different wilderness areas. We have wilderness areas up here that are limiting access to motorized vehicles to help maintain the trails higher up. So what it ends up doing is a lot of trails get ruined because of weather and landfall or landslides. They don't get fixed properly, and then people end up going to other trails and making those trails higher wear, higher use. It's a trickle-down thing. So this is something that definitely affects everybody. AC100. So Dom, what he was mentioning there, all that information can be found on AC100.com. There's a link that'll take you to the description of what's going on there. But there's a letter and a form there, correct, that can apply to anybody, essentially.
Right. And so part of the great thing about having the professional lawyers involved is helping us to refine our message and to figure out
what that legislation should actually be, like having it written up ahead of time of like what we're actually proposing and in the correct terminology that will
and what's going to be have the best chance of success, which argument is most practical and which arguments you should set aside. And so the next phase after this, because we're not going away, we're not just writing letters and then waiting patiently for a reply. We're going to have a call-in campaign. And so many other political causes over the years have had similar success with this, just relentless phone calls to the congressional office whether it's once a week, whether it's once a day, taking the time to say, hey, these are my concerns. I'm still not getting any response. And I think that once we get that next stage ironed out, we'll release it and recommend it to the runners that are passionate about this, because we live in a democracy, but it is a very big and complicated 300 million person democracy, and you have to fight for what you believe in. Having Lindy is a realization that the world could be an amazing place with technology, and then it could also be a very trampled place with abuse of technology. And so my dream, my goal is that she at least has the opportunity to run the race someday if she so chooses. And it's not a road race. It is a trail race as the main goal.
I appreciate everything that you guys are doing for that race. And I mean, even further into what you're doing for fellow trail runners and fellow users of the mountains and the trails and stuff like that. So thank you guys for spearheading that effort and for doing what you can to save that race. I want to thank our two guests tonight, Dom and Katie Grossman and Lindy Grossman, which is probably the most...
Three. That's three.
That's
Whenever
three.
we go to eat, I say 3 people.
Which is very confusing for the waitresses.
And then we have the Archer quote where it's like, yeah, she's people. And they're like, Katie's like, no, she's not. She doesn't need a menu. I'm like, but look, she's people. She's people.
She didn't take up an additional seat. So reservation for 2. There's no reason to fight that. That's 3 people. Lindy's too damn cute. Thank you, Lindy Grossman, for joining us on the show. Dom and Katie, we appreciate you also accompanying her. But let's be honest, Lindy's the real guest here.
I think you were like interacting with Lindy more than you were with Dom and Katie. I just look over and you just be like,
just like, you're right. She makes faces. Like, she's very easy to, oh, hi.
Yeah.
Like, she's kind of flirty and that really quick. And it's like the reward as an adult. Like, oh, I think she likes me.
I did it.
The reality is, I think I have a weird looking face.
But
if you can't get enough of her right now, there is a Lindy Mae Grossman Instagram. So we have a lot of friends and family that just cannot get enough of her. So we post pictures of her regularly. If you need a baby fix, if you're having a bad day, she is there on Instagram.
I love it. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, before we move into the after show, you just mentioned that potentially you'll be doing things like call-ins and that kind of thing. Where can people find that information once you release it?
The AC100 website, and I'll also always be active on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. So whenever anything new comes out, you can definitely find it there. Also, we have an informal social media campaign, #SaveAC100, #SaveTrailRaces. We're just encouraging people to write, a really memorable experience from a trail race and why you think that trail races should exist. Because I'm not trying to be alarmist. I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist. But trail races are in danger, and you need to be an advocate for them.
I know, not a lot, but there's been some detractors that are like, oh, if you think you're going to make a difference, this is stupid. Like, this isn't going to work. But the problem is that when we're trying to compile information, like with the lawyers, is that it just like, there's a precedent as far as what Western states did with getting an act of Congress between a person's relationship, but otherwise there's not a lot of information. And so the more that people are talking about it and the more that runners are starting to band together the way the mountain biking community did, because we have some contacts within the community around here that we're taking learnings from. And that was part of it, is like, we've got to start gathering these stories and these mobilizations of people that are passionate about this and are willing to speak up. And that's only one small step. We realize that a hashtag is not going to save the race, but it's going to start creating people to, instead of just complaining about it or say over a beer after a race, this is really crappy that this is happening, having like really concrete proof of people like trying to take action and do something. Because that's what it's taken from these other use groups, including the hikers and the mountain bikers and horse users, equestrians. I guess that's horse users.
Horse.
They still have access.
Yes.
But it's a funny thing, right? So there can be no commercial events in the wilderness. So that would eliminate, all races that you have to pay a fee for, and it can't be groups greater than 12. But you can pack mule in wilderness, and you can charge people to pack mule through wilderness. So, and the horses take, gigantic dumps on the trail. Sorry, I can't mince words on that. Like when you come across, you can't even jump across some of these. You gotta go off trail. So the equestrian group has secured a place on the trails. They have secured packing. They have secured groups larger than 12. Why not runners? And runners, I'm not going to go into that, but runners are a little bit less intrusive, and I think are very good stewards of the trails. And it's something you just have to stand up for and speak up for. If you've ever been at a bar and you can't get the attention of the hostess, well, well, speak up, and get a little bit angry, hey, can I get a freaking beer? And same thing.
No, you'll get your beer spit in.
But just really wave your arms around, make some eye contact, and same thing with trail races. If you want to still go to have a trail race to sign up for that you love every year,
you gotta speak up.
Get the attention of your congressperson.
I couldn't agree more. And I think, again, to kind of wrap up the show, it's been incredibly enlightening and truthful. And I really, really appreciate both Dom and Katie's just honesty and forthcoming with all of this. Dom and Katie, thank you guys so much for taking some time out tonight to join us and to just share your knowledge with us a little bit. Can you remind people where they can find you on social media in case they have residual questions or they want to follow up and maybe follow for Lindy photos and training photos and everything?
Yep, I'm Dom_Grossman.
And I'm Hey KD Grossman, like KD on pretty much everything.
Lindy is Lindy Mae Grossman on Instagram only. Yeah.
I cannot thank these two enough for joining us on the show tonight. Absolutely fantastic show with these two. But we'll have them join us for just a little bit longer in our post show. For those of you who want to know what that is, it's quite simple. Join us on Patreon, patreon.com/thegingerrunner. For as little as $1 a month, you get access to all of our after shows where we get all of our guests to stick around for just a little bit longer. We get to ask those residual questions that didn't get asked during the main show. It helps us. It gives you some cool perks. So consider that if you have not already. Now, as we approach the end of the show, something that we like to do at the end of every Ginger Runner Live is recognize members of our community for doing something pretty damn awesome. And it is our crew member of the week. This week, I'm actually pretty excited about this one because
it's fitting.
It is fitting. Yesterday was Mother's Day. We have some longtime supporters, longtime viewers, Matt and Renee Feldhake, who had their very first baby yesterday. Healthy baby girl. So a huge congratulations to them. Sending them love and congratulations. So we have an additional crew member of the week, which I think is pretty great. So congratulations to them. That is it for tonight's episode number 258. Again, go to patreon.com/thegingerrunner. We're going to do a quick post show with Dom and Katie. They have a life and family, but we're going to ask just a couple more questions of them while we have them. Maybe some more Lindy vision. She is damn adorable. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. We cannot thank you for all the support and everything and for viewing tonight's episode. Am I forgetting anything?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Get out there, train hard, race harder, and part of the hardest. I know I am. We'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ginger